Today we shall discuss research methodology of MLI Master of Library and Information Science of Netaji Subhash Open University. We are going to discuss what is research. Research is actually systematic approach towards purposeful investigation. That means here the approach must be systematic and must have some object or purpose of research. Again, on the other hand, research is also described as an activity undertaken for generating fresh knowledge. The knowledge we are expecting to be generated by research process is to be included to the universe of knowledge. Universal knowledge means sum total of all knowledge all over the world through the ages. So research is intended to generating knowledge. According to Encyclopedia of Social Science, the manifestation of things, concepts or symbols for the purpose of generalization to extent, correct or verify whether the knowledge aids to the construction of theory or in the practice of an art. That means, through research, we expect that new knowledge will be generated and that knowledge will help, it will be generalized so that general problem can be solved. Thus, from the definition so far we have discussed, we can conclude that research throws light on manipulation of things, that is, to know how things respond to a specific condition. For example, if we take a tree and if we keep it in a closed door room, and if we bring it to the sunlight, what is the difference? That is a controlled environment, and what is the difference between, or what is the response, what is the position, what is the condition of the trees is being changed can be noticed. Similarly, generality, that means the finding of research should have general application. And third, extending knowledge. That means generating new knowledge that will help to develop strengthen the universe of knowledge and building theories. Now let us have an idea of what are the purpose, why research is being conducted. Research actually conducted to find answer to questions. Actually researchers, the person who conducts the research have some questions, and through research those questions are addressed and systematic search for truth. Research also invention of new and original information or data obtained, and man through the ages have quest for knowledge. So the thirst for knowledge is also the cause of research. Scientific and systematic information on specific topic also discovered through research and developing theories. Ultimately, purpose of research is for the progress of mankind, for the progress of the society. On the other hand, research methodology, for conducting research, scholars have to follow research methodology. Actually, research methodology is the method or technique the researcher uses in performing the research operation. Research methodology is the way to systematically solve the research problem. For conducting this kind of problem, solving this problem, various steps has to follow, such as forwarding the research problem, literature search, developing hypotheses, research design, sample design, collection and interpretation of data, and ultimately finding and conclusion and recommendation for further study. Before going to the types of research or purpose of research, let's have an idea about what data, information, knowledge and wisdom. Actually, it is called knowledge pyramid. Students, in your school days, you have an idea about ecological pyramid. At the base of ecological pyramid, we find grass, then grasshopper, then frog, then snake, and ultimately eagle. Similarly, in knowledge pyramid, the base is data. Data is nothing but observed facts, and information is processed data. And summation of many bits of information is knowledge. Let me give you an example. For example, if a researcher visits a village A, there he collects data, and from data he knows that 40% of the women of that village A is literate. And again the researcher moves to village B, and thereby he can find that 50% of the women are literate. These are the two discrete data. There is no relation in between those two data. But if we compare those data, if we summarize those data, then information may be generated. That is, that percentage of women literacy in village B is higher than that of A. And again, the summation of many bits of information, we can get knowledge. A person with all these kinds of census data is a person with knowledge, is a knowledgeable person. Now let's have an idea about the types of research. Based upon the methods and purpose of research, research can be classified into different groups. It can be classified on the based on methods the researcher follows for conducting the research, and on the other hand, the purpose of research. Based on methods, many types of research maybe are there, such as historical research, descriptive research, experimental research, field research, and so on and so forth. But based on the purpose, research are of three types. That is fundamental research. Fundamental research is also termed as basic research and also pure research. On the other hand, there are applied research and action research. So, based on the purpose, research are of three types. So, what is basic research? Basic research is concerned with the formulation of theory and to contribute to the existing body of universal knowledge. Thus, it collects and uses empirical data to generate theoretical knowledge. Let me have an idea, let me give you an example. For example, the natural phenomena or relating to pure mathematics or human behavior, research on human behavior is an example of basic or pure research. On the other hand, the applied research is directed to use scientific knowledge to solve immediate, specific and practical problems. It is based on utilitarian approach, that is addressed to specific problem. For example, in our previous example of social science, when it is general social behavior of the people studied, it is applied it for generalization, just become basic research. But when it is applied to solve a specific problem, social problem of a specific group or community, then it becomes applied research. On the other hand, action research is undertaken by the practitioners to solve their problems. Actually, applied research are basically funded research, funded by different agencies in our country like UGC, ICAR, are the funding agency to conduct this kind of research. Now, research types, again, on the basis of data collection and data use and interpretation, research can be distinguished on another side as quantitative and qualitative. Quantitative means it's based on the quantitative measures and use of statistical analysis, just analysis and interpretation of data. On the other hand, qualitative research is non-quantitative type of analysis. It describes reality experienced by the individual or communities. Now let us have an idea about the criteria for a good research. For purpose must clearly be defined. I mean, research purpose. What is the purpose of research? What the researcher intend to goal at the end of completion of his research, that must clearly be defined in the research. Then research process detailed, research design through planned. So for determining the research process and research design, actually researcher has to conduct literature search to know or to check out his research process as well as design. And research must be based on high ethical standard. And limitation or delimitation, whatever we call it, self-imposed limitation is called delimitation. So researcher must reveal his limitation of his study. Limitation in two aspects generally, geographical coverage as well as time concern. So these two must clearly be defined. Adequate analysis of the data to throw new light, and finding must be clearly presented and conclusion must be justified with the aim that it is a general, it can be used for general purposes too. In case of research, there are some systematic steps are followed to reach the goal. That is the identification of the problem. For identification of the problem, understanding of the nature of the problem must be studied. And then review of literature. To review of literature, that means existing studies, existing papers, what the preceding researchers have conducted has to know. That is to understand other approach to the problem, to know the trend of the research, to find out the methodology to be followed to conduct this research. That is the literature review. And the third step is development of hypothesis. That is the tentative assumption in order to draw out and to test its logical sequence. Whether the assumption is justified by the research, whether it is positive, whether it is negative, or whether it is a null hypothesis. Preparation of research design, actually conceptual, it is conceptual structure within which research would be conducted. So again, sample design. So what is sample? Actually, sample is should be the representative nature of the character. Sample should possess the representative character of the entire population. And there are again different methods of collecting, determining sample. It may be random sampling, systematic sampling, and so on and so forth. Again, collection of data must be organized and controlled manner. Analysis of data to the problem must be reviewed. And testing of hypothesis, as we have mentioned earlier, that in research the hypothesis is determined. Many times it is not hypothesis, it is a statement of the problem. Many times it is the purpose of the research. What we intend to what we mentioned in the introductory part must be justified later on. If it is testing of hypothesis, then whether the hypothesis we have drawn, I mean the research has drawn, is justified, whether it is supported the findings, that is the positive hypothesis, whether it is not supporting, that is negative, or when it is taking a middle path, not positive, not negative, that is the null hypothesis, and drawing and conclusion and making it generalization. Because generalization of the research funding in the ultimate motto or purpose of the research, because it is most of the cases research is being done or conducted by social fund, social money, public taxpayers' money. So the findings of the research must be available to each and everybody of the country, and that should be generalized to solve the problem in general. And preparation of the thesis, ultimately final steps of the research is the preparation of thesis, and ultimately preparation of thesis has again mainly three components: the preliminary pages, the main text, and the end matters. Preliminary pages means title, dedication, acknowledgement, content, list of tables, list of contents, and then the body of the research, and at the end it is appendices, pictures, questionnaires, so on and so forth. Research ethics. Now, for conducting research ethics must be followed, because that is a base. Ethics is a branch of philosophy with moral problematic as an element. The code of ethics are set standard for professional behavior. But ethics is not a static one, it is dynamic. It changes with the passage of time and depends upon the culture of the society. What is unethical in Indian context may be not so much unethical in American or Western concept. So ethics varies, ethics depends upon the culture and as well as time. But the basic principle, the basic ethics remain the same. Those are the honesty, the integrity, the human kindness, all that. So basic characteristics of ethics is more moral than legal. It is the moral concept. It is the approach is to the morality. Now, what are the general principles of ethics in case of researcher, or what ethics the researcher should follow? First of all, he has to take permission to research. Permission from his institution, permission from the place or his study area or his population where he is going to conduct or where is to go, where from is intending to collect data, that permission is required. For case of permission in case of institution, I mean in case of university, that it should be rotated through board of studies, institute board, research board, and ultimately he will be permitted to conduct research. And professional responsibility and integrity is also an essential component for research ethics. Competence and respect to the people's culture, moral and legal, that is also important. For example, if you wish to collect data through participatory observation system through the tribal community of Santals, then we must have honor or adhere to their cultural integrity, their morality. At the same time, researcher must maintain confidentiality, because people rights, their dignity, their privacy and confidentiality of data also must be maintained. Otherwise, the population or the respondent or the samples would not be interested to describe their things. On the other hand, researcher ethical misconduct. What are the ethical misconducts the researcher may perform, may do? That is a fabrication. That is the behavior that makes up data or results or recording or reporting. Also, the data report must not be mixed up. It must be based on truth. Falsification. Many times, fictitious data are collected. Behavior that actually falsification is a behavior that manipulates research material, equipments or process, changing or omitting data or results. Sometimes data are collected from the field, data are collected from the laboratories, but to make the result of the research, to make it positive all the times, many times researchers sometimes falsify the data so that the results of the research is unique, standard, but this is not ethical. And another concept nowadays come up, that is a plagiarism. That is the behavior that appropriate authors another person's idea, that appropriates another person's idea, process, results or words without getting credit to that person. Actually, it is one kind of misconduct in that sense. It is one kind of theft. The person who is taking this without recognition to his precedents, without recognition to the person who has generated the idea, who has developed the knowledge, taking his ideas and taking his quotations without proper response, without proper acknowledgement, without proper citation to that person. And finally, violation of general accepted research practice again is also ethical misconduct, and failure to comply with governmental requirements and contractual agreements. Actually, funds for research are given by different funding agencies. Funds are given by the funding agencies. Certain rules and regulations must be there, that must be followed. If researcher conduct research with animals' life, again, natural rule of the country must be followed. But in conclusion, I would like to mention that research misconduct does not include honest error. Honest error is permissible, or difference of opinion in research is a common phenomenon.